And we're back with the Hammer Podcast. That's right, Hammerheads. We are coming to you today from sunny Wake Forest, North Carolina, on the campus of Southeastern Seminary. That's right. That's right. The Hammer Podcast has been on the move. We are here for the annual Pillar Network Church Conference, and it's been a great and relaxing time. So we, being that we're here at the conference, we wanted to take some time and just discuss, what does it look like for...
Hold on, that might be quiet for just a second. That may be a security guard.
Oh, yes. All right. Now don't tell anyone.
Okay, I think they've passed.
Okay,
I think
good.
they've passed.
So don't tell anyone, but it's a bustling event. There's quite a few people here. I don't know exact number, but quite a few. So we had to break away. And, let's just say we kindly and gently broke into a room on the campus.
Yeah, we did it Danny's way, a kindler, gentler break-in and entry. So
yes.
we should be all right here.
I think so, but that gave us a little bit more peace and quiet so we could record for all of our hammerheads out there who we know miss our voices. So that's right, friends. But all this to say, we did want to discuss, the relationship between churches, fellowshipping, networking, partnering with other churches. What does that look like? Where are the lines that should be drawn, and so forth? So if we dive in, let's start with, maybe you could outline some areas for us where the local church should be operating or open to partnering in missions, church planting, discipleship with other local churches. What would be some of the outlines of that for us?
Yeah, right. Well, first of all, let me just say that I am not going to, be the definitive voice on this, right? Throughout church history, there have been debates and, where local churches should be in partnership with other local churches, where they shouldn't, and so forth. But so I can only give what is my opinion, but is certainly not in any way coming straight from Scripture, because, God doesn't tell us, right? He talks about congregations being unified and believers loving each other in general, whether we belong to the same congregation, right?
Right.
Or not. But I think some areas where we can be open to partnering certainly would be in myriads of different missions. Right? Sending missionaries, whether it's in certain parts of the United States or foreign missions, but helping train them. Sometimes that may mean using your facilities so that people can have training classes. Maybe it means sending, funds or help, or sending people to go help with the children of the missionaries while the missionaries themselves are being trained. I mean, there's a lot of different ways, right? A lot of different venues to go with that. But I think in many areas of missions, absolutely, that we as a local church can partner with other local churches. And right along with that would be church planting.
Right.
And again, I won't get on my hobby horse, but today's idea of church planting is not exactly, what we see throughout church history. And where today it's just kind of like a church pops up right next to three other churches.
Yeah, well, because a couple people were smarter than the next people, so.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes, and then all you do, right, you end up just taking some disgruntled sheep from one church, and there's something new, and because people like new things, right?
Of course.
And then they go over to that church, and then eventually that's not new anymore, and the next one's newer, and but real church planting, right, where somebody goes where there's just really no biblical church, true preaching of the word within a certain number of miles or radius, right?
Right.
We can certainly take part in helping with that, and again through sending, through giving, all of that, would be ways we can help. Now, in terms of discipleship, I guess there you would mean, okay, you have people that are believers, and different opportunities for them to be discipled in different ways. I don't know exactly what that would look like, but I think, certainly some churches could partner in with some different events and stuff like that. But I think the important thing is that there are absolutely events. There are certainly, again, missional opportunities where churches that are like-minded, not exact, right?
Sure.
You're not going to find exact, but churches that are like-minded where we can partner together with our resources and with our people, and support, what the Lord is doing in the kingdom and be a part of that together.
Right. Well, I mean, that's kind of what we're doing here at the Pillar Conference.
Yeah,
There's some
absolutely.
training going on. There's some connections being made where we can share resources with one another as church plants are going forth, whether they're in the
that's right, yeah.
States or even, as we've seen, overseas.
Yeah, and actually, missions, right? Church planting, discipleship, all of that's going on
Right.
at this conference. So that's a good example of it, yeah. And we probably have roughly, 800 or 1,000 people here. I didn't get the head count. It was quite a few people.
It's quite a few.
I would venture to say that there are, I bet, 250 different local churches represented here, if not more.
Yeah. No, it's an amazing event to be a part of and just be encouraged by as we fellowship with one another and look to what God's been doing in these particular local churches. And, as we've seen some of the guys come up and they're anticipating planting in different places. They've been at, we have the tabernacle, I think is what they've been calling it.
Yeah.
This huge tent outside of Brinkley Chapel, not Brinkley, our boy Brinkley Hill, but Brinkley Chapel. And this big tent. And so some of the church planners who are anticipating going have been sitting out there.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
You could meet with them, talk to them, kind of get a sense of what their vision and plan is, and if that's something that your local church would be interested in helping financially support.
Yeah, and if not financial, then prayer. Some of these guys already have the finances met. They just need prayer support, and they need connections with other pastors so that when things get tough and rough,
because they inevitably will.
Right, they have somebody to talk to, they have somebody to email with, maybe even somebody to come visit, somebody to hug, somebody to cry with.
Yeah.
I mean, those are things that really take place, and so these connections are important.
Yeah, and it's been great just to kind of connect with some people that we've been affiliated with, whether they're in Washington State or Michigan, and see some of the exciting things that God's doing with them and their ministries that are faithfully
absolutely.
proclaiming truth.
And that's what's exciting too, right, is that we've got some folks that came up through here. They went to college here, and then they went through church here, and then left here and went to do some things with other pillar churches, and have now already planted churches.
Yes.
And that's kind of exciting.
Yeah,
So,
it really is. Yeah, we've got a couple guys like that. Amazing to see what God's doing in and around and among us.
Right.
So, all right, well, let's take it to the next question. And, could you tell us some areas where the local church might have to draw the line and not fellowship with or partner with another local church or network of churches?
Yeah.
Like, at what point does hey, this is great, let's dive headlong into it, become a, whoa,
Sure. Yeah.
pump the brakes? We need to have some hesitation and maybe even some clear boundaries.
Yeah, well, here again, there's not going to be cookie cutter answers. I think they're going to be, each situation's different. But, if you have a network where they have any influence or control over local churches, that's going to be an issue. Okay, now
Right.
we are autonomous. So any network, any convention, anything that we're a part of, we may be a part of, but they don't have any direct authority over our congregation or over our budget or really how we do anything.
Right.
Okay, so they don't influence us or let alone control us in that way. But I think look, if you were to have a network or another local church, you know, and all of a sudden that network as a network, like network wide, you know, all of a sudden comes out and says, you know, we believe women can pastor. I'm just going to use one thing, right? We believe as a network, women. Okay, well, you know what? Now we're going to have to step back from your network because it can become guilt by association.
Sure.
Now, that's just one example, okay? But if you, you know, let's say you have somebody leading a network and they're a-mill, and maybe you prefer pre-mill, or they're pre-mill and you prefer a-mill. I mean, you're not going to break over that sort of thing. You're going to draw a line over that, okay? Right. So it's not like you draw a line over every doctrinal issue, okay? Or let's say they say, hey, as a network, we support, you know, BLM.
The peaceful protest of BLM.
Right. Now, you may have someone in the network. You may have some nitwits here or there, you know, in a network that they're doing something like that.
Maybe
or they're
even marching, right?
Yeah, or
right.
they're pushing their local church to do, you know, you're always going to kind of have that, right? So if you're just, you know, if you're going to pull out of a network because of one church out of 400 does something stupid, or a couple of them, well, then you're always going to be on your own.
Yeah,
right?
You're always going to be alone, and then you displace the benefit of the coming together, the shared resources.
Right. So I think, you know, look, I put a lot of stock into what Scripture says about loving each other and about unity among believers, right? So I think that there's a wide range there, and so I think we have to be wise. But certainly there are certain things that do rise to the top where you say, okay, you know, we're gonna, and this is a larger topic for another day, of course. But at that particular point in time, you would have to assess it. And, you know, this is why you have a plurality of elders to discuss these things with, to pray with. And then it would be one of those things that then you go before the church and inform them of what's going on and why you think that our church should go in this direction or what have you. And and then you can have a good open discussion about it. So.
Yeah. So I guess, are we safe to say a prayer breakfast with Muslims would be a problem?
Yeah, stop picking on Ricky Warren there, man. He had a purpose.
It was a purpose. There was a purpose there. Ah, that's good. Okay, now look. Due to the travel, we're not going to be able to take a caller today. So I'm sorry, guys. You're going to have to just wait until next week. And unfortunately, you know, the new vault is so large.
It's heavy. That thing's big.
Yeah, I don't even know how we got in the building, to be honest. So getting it out of our location and taking it with us to the conference was logistically not going to happen. Might have been too pricey. So we have no inquisition, but I do have here, that's right, in my Carolina Ale House wing-stained hands, and the wings, I do have to say, were pretty good. Maybe better than East Coast. There'll have to be a taste test.
They were good. They weren't so good this morning, but last night they were pretty good. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, we'll move on from that. But yes, I have here in my hands a question that could serve as a bit of an inquisition. So let me see here. Now, if we could put it all on the line and just be honest for a second, at what point or why should any pastor of a church who's affiliated with the Southern Baptist Convention continue any affiliation with the convention, given some of the liberal drift that some have started to see, especially, in reference to what we're talking about just a few minutes ago?
Yeah, the wokeness and I'll wear my mask even in the shower because, I love my neighbor, right? Okay, yes. These sort of things. Well, let me first of all say that look, there are legitimate concerns that people have. But we also have to be careful. A lot of things get out there on the internet, and there are a million discernment sites, and we don't even know who's the author of some of these sites. I mean, some of these discernment sites, might be, Manson family members behind a keyboard in jail.
Yeah, I mean, but with the internet, really, anybody can be behind the keys.
Right. So, so you have to be careful at some of this and not just take it for granted. And then you have to go and do some research and find out, are they really taking something in context, or are they taking it out of context? So, I mean, you could take a couple hours to verify one of the statements made or headlines on one of these discernment sites. And I don't know about you. I don't have a lot of time to do that.
Yeah. How are you supposed to pastor?
Yeah, now I do every once in a while. And then I've also got pastor friends and some other friends that I trust enough, and we've already had the discussion. Don't send me something that you haven't vetted.
Right. And
the first time you send me something and you're wrong, don't ever send me something again.
Right.
Okay, I need to be able to trust something you. So I've got some brothers that will vet some things, and even some sisters that will vet some things. And look, so there are things that concern you that some people say that are in the convention, things like that. But I want to say this too. So that's kind of the public venue, and people see that, right? And Joe Blow can sit in a pew and get on their computer, and they can see this from these discernment websites. And look, and as I say, there are some things out there that can be concerning. There's no doubt about it.
They are.
But let me give each hammerhead here, each listener, a little bit of a different perspective too, that I'm looking at, that some other pastors are looking at. Okay. We don't just see what Joe Blow, who has even if they're the president of the convention, they have no power or authority over our church.
Right.
And we don't send any money to Nashville. None of our money go. When we decide to support a missionary that is supported through the convention, we send the money. The money gets directly to them. Right. It doesn't go through Nashville, and some of it get taken out for this representative of the SBC or this or that. Okay, we don't do it that way. So having said that, we see the other side of it where we have discussions with missionaries when they come off the field. We're there at dinner, at lunch. We're there with other pastoral staff where missionaries are having whatever issue they're having. And we're there with them listening and trying to help and praying and sometimes weeping with them. But we're seeing that side of it, okay? So while we can look here at what goes on here, right? In our country, in something like the convention, right? And we hear that so-and-so president or former president or this church in the convention or that church, we hear their pastor said this or whatever, or they are doing this. And we say, that's really? No, that's not biblical, or you're on the wrong side of that. Okay, there's that, right?
Right.
But there's also, dozens, really I could say hundreds, right, of missionaries in other countries that they don't even know Joe Blow said that.
Yeah, they have no clue.
They have no idea what Jay Dewey right down the road from us here may have said. They don't know, but what they do know is they're struggling with their marriage, or their child is very sick. Or they've got people, a parent or somebody back home saying, why have you abandoned us? You need to come back home. God wouldn't call you to abandon us. I mean, these are the sort of things these missionaries deal with. Plus, everything else we deal with in our own lives, our own sin and everything else, right? But it's magnified being out in the mission field sometimes. And then many of them are in areas where people, frankly, do not like Americans.
Right.
So you just compound all that. They're out there doing the Lord's work. And for us to just say, you know what, we're going to cut and run, which means no longer supporting those folks just because some nitwit said whatever he or she said that really doesn't have any direct effect. So for us, it's just not as easy as, yeah, I read on this site that so-and-so said this.
Right.
It's much larger than that, and it's much bigger than that. And we see those things. We see beyond just that. But on the ground level, the ground floor, what's happening. And that's something I think a lot of people and a lot of church members maybe don't ever think about or think of. But when you're having dinner with these people, when you're conversing with these people, when you're hearing what's going on in other nations, in churches in other nations, and I kind of painted that like the negative things happen, the things that are difficult, but also the great things. When you hear that a missionary's been in Turkey in a certain location, and after 20 years, they have their first convert, at least the first one the Lord's allowed them to see,
right?
Where the person has articulated a testimony, right, and they've been baptized, and that's exciting. Or you see another place where church is growing, and they're actually beginning, they're in another nation, but they're beginning to send out people. Or a missionary couple who, have been in a place and planted a church, and the church has grown, and now the church is ready to be taken over by the natives of that area.
Right.
And then they're going to be moving on to start another church. So we hear these great things too, right? So we hear that, and we want to continue to be a part of it. We don't just want to pull back because some blowhard said something stupid.
Right.
Or is leading their church to do something stupid that has no real influence over us.
Right.
Okay, I'm not just going to, because they said this or did that, disregard all this partnership we've got and all this mission work we're doing with these other missionaries. So, but yet that's a side of it that some people that are just reading things over the internet, they're not even thinking of. That's not even on their mind.
No, they see what the shiny object right in front of them of this person said this person did that, blah, 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 blah. And then the noise distracts them from what's important, which is the work that's being done.
Right, and that's what we have to look at.
Yeah.
And look, that's why we're here with Pillar. And that's one of the great things about Pillar. Pillar is obviously a smaller contingency, right, within the Southern Baptist Convention. And Pillar is really the only, we don't go to the annual convention meetings. Pillar is what we're really, that's really one of the main reasons we're still in the convention. Pillar and missions, which goes together.
Right.
But the Pillar Network, they vet churches, and those who are in the Pillar Network are going to be conservative believers, and I mean conservative, primarily biblically.
Sure, right. They believe in exposition.
Right. They believe in exposition. They believe in a plurality of elders. They believe in regenerate membership.
Yep.
Okay, these are kind of the principles there. So when we come together, we see a lot of like-mindedness. Now, there's certainly a tremendous amount of differences. I don't think we've got anybody walking around this conference with a tie, okay, but we've got some people pretty dressed up, minus the tie. Not many, but there's some. And then we've got others that are in shorts and Crocs.
Yeah, right. You got a broad spectrum.
And that's okay, right? And my point is that it's not like, there's one major figurehead here, and everybody tries to dress like, them and be like them. There's a vast difference, and there's a freedom to kind of come together and say, yeah, okay, I hear you, but I don't know. I kind of would do this way or do that way. Not on the major doctrines, right? But on other things. And I think that's good, and I think it helps. I think it helps us to not stay, when I say us, I mean each individual pastor, to not just kind of get in your own little world and in your own little box and this is the way this must be done or this has to be done, as if thus saith the Lord.
Right.
So I think it's good for that reason. And one of my heroes of the faith, one of our good friends. He used to be a part of this church way back. Dwayne Milione.
Yeah,
Dwayne's
great.
Right, he's one of the guys who the Lord put this network on his heart, and he's one of the co-founders of the network. And you would hardly know that because he stays in the background. I mean, you come to these events, and he's not up front and center speaking every year and so forth. So I appreciate that humility. But, yeah, so I think there are a lot of great reasons to partner with other churches, even within, the Southern Baptist Convention.
Yeah, good. I think that's been a helpful discussion, especially as we've been here at the Pillar Conference, to just kind of take a look at it and, discuss those relationships in a larger way for all the hammerheads out there. So that's going to bring us to a close, friends. Thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned. It'll be another 168 hours, but we will be back.
Watch out. No, sir, officer. Right here. He broke in. I did not.
We're gone.
I tried to stop him.
That's right. Thanks for...